Welcome to Encounter, where we celebrate putting faith into action and community leaders who live out compassion, grace, and love. We're a program of the Broome County Council of Churches that addresses food insecurity through CHOW and the Greater Good Grocery, provides hospital and jail ministry, builds wheelchair ramps, and assists neighbors with transportation and shopping services through Faith in Action volunteers. We invite you to the conversation. Encounter your neighbors as we learn to walk together in love and kindness.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of Encounter. Apparently I'm your lovely and talented host, semi-talented, the Reverend Jeff Kellam. I serve as the Parish Associate at the Union Presbyterian Church in Endicott. So I know about the National League, I know about the National Football League, the American League, I know about 20,000 leagues under the sea. Something I don't know about is the League of Women Voters. I mean, I've heard about it all my life, but I never joined. I didn't pay much attention. Terrible thing to mention when my guest today is going to be talking about the League of Women Voters and some of the foci that they will have in the coming months as it leads up to our November elections. My guest today is Carla Michalak. She is a professor of political science, or Professor of History, Philosophy, and Social Sciences at SUNY Broome.
Yes.
Welcome to Encounter.
Thank you.
I know that in church every once in a while we have a couple of folks who are members of the League of Women Voters who make announcements about coming activities or special things that they'd like us to be thinking about and even taking to the polls. Tell me about the League.
Oh, sure.
Inform me. You know, all I know is it's old. It goes back to 1920.
It is. It's almost as old as I am. So the League of Women Voters was formed in 1920, in February, in fact, on Valentine's Day. So when you're celebrating with a special someone, think about the anniversary of the League of Women Voters. And it was formed in anticipation that women would get the right to vote, that the 19th Amendment would indeed pass. And it did pass that August. So the League was in effect 6 months prior. And it was formed by Carrie Chapman Catt, whom many of you may know as one of our suffragists in this country. A suffragette was a woman who was willing to be violent. A suffragist was advocating for the right to vote in a peaceful manner. So that's an important thing to know, too. A lot of people mix those things up.
Yeah.
So it's been, we celebrated our 100th anniversary in 2020, so we're 104 years old now. And again, primarily the League does voter registration, voter education, and encouraging women, of course, to vote. But again, like you said, men can join. Anyone of voting age can be a part of the League of Women Voters. We don't turn anyone away. We appreciate their service and interest in civic life.
Yes.
We have a local league, so there's a national league, there's a state league, and then local leagues divide off from the state league. And so our local league is the League of Women Voters of Broome and Tioga County, and we do have a couple active members in your parish, so that's why you're getting so much extra information.
Right.
And your parish is kind enough to let us use your hall periodically for some of our events.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. There are, I did some research because it's my job. There are active leagues in all 50 states and 750 leagues or clubs, I guess, around the country. My middle name is Stanton, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton is in our family line.
Oh, my goodness.
And people say, well, yes, but she married Stanton, so you're not really in her. But she was a Stanton before she married the Stanton.
Yes.
So and my grandmother was she was Elizabeth Cady Stanton reborn.
Wow.
Because she, to her dying day, was so interested in politics and in women's rights and trying to get people to the polls. I think in her last year of life, her priest came and drove her to the polls so that she could vote.
Wow.
And I think that's had an influence on me and my politics,
Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah.
So the League of Women Voters locally, what are some of the things that you've done?
Well, we focus on voter registration, of course. Just recently, and this is with the advent of the new sheriff and the way things are improving at the jail, we've been registering detainees to vote, because they can vote unless they're convicted of a felony, and most of them are awaiting trial or sentencing, so they're still eligible to vote.
Right.
So we're doing our ministry there. We've also done voter registration at the colleges, both at Binghamton University and SUNY Broome, where I work. So we try to get students engaged because we need our next generation to be civically engaged and civic-minded. We also are at food pantries, we're at community meals, we're at farmers markets. Invite us, we'll come.
Yeah.
And we'll get people registered, and we also do absentee ballot applications for voters who don't think they'll be here for a particular election. And in fact, that is how our detainees vote, through absentee ballot. So we really can do almost anything, and we would absolutely love to come to one of your events and conduct voter registration with any organization.
Yeah. It started as what was called a mighty political experiment. And what I find interesting, too, is that in your work, you are a grassroots nonprofit, but the important word is nonpartisan.
Absolutely.
You're not influencing people to vote in any particular way for any particular candidate or party. How do you maintain that objectivity as you promote your work?
Well, again, the idea is to get people engaged. So our role is to study issues. We study healthcare, we study criminal justice reform, we study access to the ballot, and then we present those issues in a very nonpartisan way so people can learn from those issues and make their own decisions. When we register voters, we don't encourage them to pick a party. If they ask us what party they should register for, we can't tell them. We have an information sheet that outlines what each political party stands for, and provide that to them and let them decide.
Right.
We do explain that if you're going to want to participate in the primaries in the state of New York, it is a closed primary, which means you have to be affiliated with a political party. So we'll share that information so they know that if they want to say and who's going to represent their party for a particular position, they might want to choose a party. Otherwise, they cannot participate in the primaries, and that's a source of frustration for a lot of voters.
It is for me. I'm an independent, and my dad was in politics in Vestal and in Endicott, ran twice, didn't get elected, for which I'm terribly thankful. He would have been a good man, but I also know that it has quite an influence on your family when you become politically active and you're out at meetings and so on. I was always sad he lost, but then in the end. But he was a political person, I think, as a result of his mother, a Stanton. I think that for many of us, when we look at politics, to remain independent sounds like we're against somebody or the other, but it's a matter of thinking, I don't want to get all the phone calls, I don't want to get all the mail, I want to make up my own mind.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to the primaries, then we don't have a voice in that.
We do not in New York, and I personally would like to see that change. There are states that allow independent voters to participate, New Hampshire being one of them. It's called a hybrid primary, so Republicans still vote in the Republican primary, Democrats still vote in the Democratic primary, but independents can participate in either primary. And that is really, I believe, a better way to go. And New York has changed their election law, and they've been updating it and improving it, so perhaps that'll be on the next legislature's agenda.
Right. So you have an event coming up. You mentioned that our church fellowship hall at Union Presbyterian has been used for some League of Women Voters events.
Yes.
Tell me about the event coming up,
okay,
and then we'll delve deeper into that.
Okay, so we are, and I want to speak to everybody, you're all welcome to come at Union Presbyterian, 200 East Main Street in Endicott, right? So it's 7 o'clock, March 21st. It's a Thursday. And it is a launch event for the New York State Equal Rights Amendment. So we're trying to educate our community on what that New York State Equal Rights Amendment is going to be all about. And again, we're nonpartisan. However, the League has decided to take a position on this amendment, and this is at the national level. At the state level, because it only affects New York State. So the state league has said we are going to take the position that we should support it. And so that's Thursday, March 21st. It's going to be a tea and talk. We're going to have tea, scones, other little treats, and we're hoping we'll all gather and talk about the Equal Rights Amendment and how we can all work in this community to promote it.
You got me at scones, but I think
I make them.
Yeah. Oh, good. So the Equal Rights Amendment. I was talking with a fellow pastor the other day and talked about the upcoming interview with you, and he said the Equal Rights Amendment. And I said, we don't have one in the U.S. Constitution. He said, I thought we did. All that talk about the ERA, but it was never ratified.
No, it was not. So in 1923, as soon as women got the right to vote, which was 1920, but in 1923, Alice Paul and Crystal Eastman worked real hard to promote an equal rights amendment. And it took until 1972 for the Congress to propose the amendment, pass the amendment, and send it out to the states. And to amend the United States Constitution, we need 3/4 of the states saying yes. Mm-hmm. So there was a 7-year window of time that the states had to ratify the amendment. I was young then, but there were 30 states that signed on immediately in the first year, then 5 more by the end of that 7-year window of time that we were looking for ratification. But we had 35. We needed 38. So 3/4 of 50 is 38. We do math and political science also. I always tell my students that. So unfortunately, 35 states, the window of time ends, the Equal Rights Amendment is not added.
Right.
So there was an active group of people saying, give us more time, we'll get those 3 states. The Congress gave the ERA advocates 3 more years. In that time, they could not get up to 38 states.
Yeah.
Until, interestingly, 2017, and I want to just reference my notes to make sure I don't forget the states. Mm-hmm. In 2017...
Had New York State voted?
Oh, New York State was absolutely one of the states that approved it way back when. Nevada passed the Equal Rights Amendment, so that was the 36th state. Illinois came in 2018 and passed it. And then in 2020, Virginia became the 38th state. So technically, it should be amended to the Constitution, but the Congress is taking the position, well, you exceeded the window of time, this doesn't matter now. And so there's conversation in the Congress about whether we should just add it to the Constitution or start over again. Yeah. Representative Maloney from the state of New York, she's now retired from the House, but she's taking a very active role in promoting that the Congress add this to the Constitution, because officially it's met its requirements.
Read, if you would, the amendment. This is the
U.S. amendment.
The U.S. amendment.
That did not get added.
Did not get it.
Right. So for right now, we do not have an Equal Rights Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. I want to be clear in case I lost some of you in my rush to explain the history. So all it says is equality of rights under the law shall not be abridged or denied by the United States or by any state on account of sex. So it's clear that it was written a long time ago because it's only worried about sexual discrimination. If you don't mind, this might be a good segue into the New York State ERA. ERA. So the New York State ERA is more broad and inclusive and is really important for any group in this state. So I'll read it slowly. It's long. No person shall be denied the equal protection of the laws of this state. No person shall, because of race, color, ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, creed, religion, or sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, pregnancy outcomes, reproductive health care and autonomy, be subjected to any discrimination in their civil rights by any other person or by any firm, corporation, or institution, or by the state or any agency or subdivision of the state.
Wow.
So it's lengthy, but it's intended to capture everybody.
Yeah. And it right now has been, in order to be added to the New York State Constitution, it has to be voted on by both houses in Albany twice.
Correct.
So where are we there?
Okay, so Governor Hochul convened the state legislature in June of 2022, immediately following the reversal of Roe v. Wade, and said we need an equal rights amendment. So the state legislature passed the amendment in the first session that summer of 2022, and then it has to come up for a second time with a new session of the legislature. So the previous one ended that summer, and the new one started in January of 2023. In January 2023, they passed it for the second time. In New York State, voters have a say in constitutional amendments, unlike the U.S. Constitution. So now it's our turn.
Right.
The ballot has to go out, the amendment has to go out to every ballot in the state of New York. And we chose 2024 because, as you all know, it's a presidential election year.
A lot of people will be voting.
Absolutely, and that's the goal, that we're going to have a great turnout and that we're eager for voters to participate. And I encourage all voters to flip the ballot. The amendment will be on the back side of your amendment. So please flip the ballot. More than likely, your poll worker will remind you to do that, but just in case they forget, flip the ballot. That's where you'll find the amendment.
Yeah. So the amendment would, once the voters pass it, simple majority.
Yes, simple majority.
Then it becomes law.
Correct.
Now, what would be the pushback? Why would folks be reluctant to vote for the equal rights for everyone?
There is some pushback relating to the reproductive rights section of the amendment. However, in New York, those protections already exist in the law. So we have those protections. It doesn't change anything. It just enshrines them in our Constitution, something that will stay with us for a very long time.
Right.
It's easy to change laws, as we're seeing in other states. And so New York has decided we want to enshrine this in the Constitution for a protection that extends well beyond any politician's service.
Sure. Our guest today, I want to remind folks that our guest is from the League of Women Voters, Carla Michalak, who is a professor of political science at SUNY Broome. And we're talking about the Equal Rights Amendment, but also about the League of Women Voters and why they would encourage folks to go to the polls for any reason, for any election, for any proposition that comes up, to let your voice be heard. And so thank you for being with us this morning to talk about the ERA. As you look at the voters of New York, how do you see this going? Do you think this is going to just fly through? Or is this, I suppose, the more questionable it is, the more you want to get out the vote?
Absolutely. So a poll was done in May of 2023, and again, I just want to reference my notes so that I don't misspeak. Sure. And 1,700 registered voters in New York were polled on this very question, and essentially 75% of those voters absolutely support that this amendment be passed and see it as a positive impact. That being said, there are pockets in the state that are more supportive and less supportive, and the Southern Tier apparently is only 4% supportive. So the League of Women Voters has a lot of work to do to educate people on what the amendment means. Every group of people is protected. I can think of myself now as I age, and I was looking for other opportunities. The first thing that was called to my attention is I'm old, and which I didn't appreciate. So
you don't know old.
I'm getting there, but so this will protect that. So if you're seeking a new career and you're young in heart and in physical well-being, that your age will not be held against you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I work with students of all kinds, all gender expressions. And they're all amazing human beings, and that's what we have to see them as first, but unfortunately there are people that do not, and so this will protect them as well.
Yes.
So those are a couple of personal stories of how I think the ERA can really help us.
Yeah.
And of course it is Women's History Month, and in honor of the women who got us the right to vote to start and then pushed the National Equal Rights Amendment, I think this is the time to promote the state ERA and to really get behind the fact that not everybody is protected in the New York State Constitution. Currently, the Constitution only protects race, and religion. So the ERA would cover everything else.
Right. This would be especially interesting for high school kids who cannot vote to at least be a part of the discussion. Is this happening? You teach political science on a college level. Do you think this is happening in high school, for example?
That's a good question. I also, another role of mine at SUNY Broome is to go out into the high schools and observe the college classes, the SUNY Broome college classes that are in the high schools. So what I hope to do is encourage all those teachers to promote the Equal Rights Amendment in their classes, and I'll bring them some of our literature as well. But yes, I promote it in our class. Every time we do a voter registration activity, we're promoting it on campuses, in the community. So we are encouraging our young people to think about this. I would guess, based on my interaction with young people, they'd all be for this amendment.
Right. I have to say, we're sponsored by the Broome County Council of Churches, which has not taken a stand on this. I think it's safe to say that most of the churches that are involved in the Broome County Council of Churches are for equal rights. They may not tick off every one of those pieces within that, but the greater story here is the idea that human beings cannot discriminate against each other. It is not part of the biblical mandate to be discriminatory.
Absolutely.
I think I can look at the life of Jesus and realize here's a man who mixed with everyone, from the rich folks to the poor, and from the politically aware to those who weren't. We're not speaking for the Broome County Council of Churches. This is an informative program about the Equal Rights Amendment and about the League of Women Voters. Now tell me again about the event coming up and where it's going to be, what time it's going to be, and then what's going to happen at the event besides scones.
I'm hoping the scones are enough to bring us all together. So again, my goal is to first educate all those in attendance about the New York State Equal Rights Amendment, and we'll chat about that, and I'll answer any questions that people may have about it, any concerns they might have. And then I'm hoping to have sort of a brainstorming session of how we can educate the broader community. So it'll be a two-part event. And again, it's March 21st, 7 o'clock at the Union Presbyterian Church, excuse me, 200 East Main Street in Endicott. If you'd like more information about it, about the event or about the League of Women Voters, just do a general search for League of Women Voters for Broome and Tioga counties. We have a website and Facebook page, and you can find more information there as well as contact us.
Right. There are parking lots. I must say you can't park on Main Street in the Union District, but there are parking lots off Loder Avenue and Liberty Avenue.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
You've been a part of the League of Women Voters for how long?
Since 2020.
What took you so long?
Well, I was raising 3 children,
Yeah.
working full-time, and involved with my church at the time. So I felt like I had enough on my plate, but as we have now, our children have grown up and moved out, and while they still interact with us, of course, they don't need me on a day-to-day basis. So now I have more time to dedicate myself to the League of Women Voters.
Right. And as I'm interested in the fact, it seems appropriate that a professor of political science, or, wait a minute, I don't want to get
It is just political science. My department is that long name.
Okay.
So, because we encompass more than one discipline.
So this is a natural fit for you.
Yes.
What took you into political science as you were growing up and being educated?
Well, a few things. Like many of us, we've had a role model. I had a very passionate 5th grade teacher who loved current events. And that got me hooked. And then I think it was an 8th grade social studies teacher who got me involved in the Nixon era and Watergate, because that was happening in real time.
Right.
And then it just grew from there. Teachers, I was just really passionate. It was just a passion of mine. When I went to college, I thought for sure I was going to law school. I also thought I wouldn't get married nor have children, so I'm 0 for 3. But I really like the way my career has gone instead. I instead got a master's in political science with an emphasis in public administration, and did an internship at SUNY Broome, fell in love with education, and the rest is history.
Yes.
I haven't been teaching the entire time. I also had the privilege of doing academic advising. I also did some institutional research. For 3 years, I also worked with students receiving public assistance, and we were trying to help them become independent, so we brought them to Broome. They got degrees, and they were able to go to work and become independent. So
Right.
I've had a lot of opportunity at SUNY Broome over the years.
Yeah. And the students who are in your classes, how engaged are they outside of the academic community? Are they future voters? Are they folks who might run for office? Are they folks who, or is this just another credit that they have to earn?
All of the above.
Yeah, I thought so.
You know, you get a mix of students who are really
Sure.
excited. You get a mix of students who are taking it because it's required for their degree, or it was simply fit in their schedule.
Yep.
But by the end of the semester, I generally have them all really interested in political science and mostly current events. That's my goal. They're citizens first. How can they stay informed? How can they know what's going on? And then what are their next steps? I'm really proud to say that Leah Webb, Senator Webb, was a student of mine. And I have other students who are engaged in the political arena. Even bumped into a student teaching introduction to American government at a school that I was visiting, and
Right.
he is just about wrapping up his degree. So it's neat to see the trajectory of students and where they go from here.
There's a lot of discussion about saving democracy,
Yes.
especially as we head toward the next election. This is your opportunity with 2 minutes left to turn to the camera and encourage people to go out and vote.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, as a member of the League of Women Voters, I cannot encourage you to vote for a particular candidate. We're nonpartisan, but our value is that citizens participate, and the first thing you can do is vote. If you're unhappy with some of the candidates, it doesn't mean that you should stay home. There's other things to cast your vote for. There'll be a Senate race, there's local elections, and of course, flip the ballot, and that Equal Rights Amendment is on the back. So I strongly encourage you to vote and get your friends and family to vote. Bring people to the polls. Maybe even sign up as a poll worker, where the Broome County Board of Elections, Tioga Board of Elections, they are short of election workers. It's a lot of fun. I do it. I agree, getting up early is kind of rough, but just go to bed earlier. That's what I do. So we encourage you to get involved, to pay attention to the issues, to come out and join our event in March, and join the League of Women Voters if any of this sounds interesting to you. We also do naturalization ceremonies. I almost forgot. And we register to vote new citizens, and that is really a joy as well.
So you simply Google League of Women Voters for Broome and Tioga, and you'll have all the information you need to join, and you'll also find information there about the upcoming event later, just very soon.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us for the Encounter program, produced by the Broome County Council of Churches, with thanks to WBNG TV and the Town Square media stations for playing the radio portion of our program. Our guest today has been Carla Michalak, who is a professor of political science at SUNY Broome and a member of the League of Women Voters. I'm Jeff Kellam, hoping that in the coming week you'll be gentle with people and with yourself.